boys and girls, it is Miss Oates, and today we're going to be going over asking and answering questions in a fiction story. So by the end of this video, you are going to be able to show understanding of a text by asking and answering questions. You're also going to be able to refer to key details to support answers to a question formulated about the text. And our key standard is RL.2.1. Ask and answer questions such as who, what, when, where, why, and how to demonstrate an understanding of key details in a text. So let's start by talking about what it means to be asking questions. We ask questions to help us understand. So in school, for example, you ask questions to your teacher all the time about something that maybe you don't know. We can also ask questions as we're reading a book or a short story. We ask questions before, during, and after when we read a text. And some of our question words include who, that's usually referring to the person, what, when, that's the time or the date, where would be the location the story takes place, why, because is a big way to answer a why question, and how, such as how much, how big, how can, how often, and how many. Why and how are often our thick questions. Those thick questions are the questions that require a little bit more thinking. Who, what, when, and where are usually questions that we call thin questions. Those are questions that I can look directly into a text and I can understand them. So how do we answer the question? Well, we use the text to find our answers. And when we use the text to find our answer, we are looking for key details. Key details are an important fact, example, or other piece of information in our text that helps explain the main idea. So think of those light bulb moments, those really big moments that happen in the story. Those are your key details. So let's go ahead and practice. I have this story that I love to read called Ben's Baseball Game. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I use key details to answer some questions. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to look at the questions that I need to be answering when I read the story. So who is the story mostly about? What makes Ben feel nervous? Why should Ben not have worried at all? And then when would Ben play baseball? So these 4 questions I need to answer. My teacher's asking me to answer these 4 questions about this text, Ben's Baseball Game. So now that I've read the questions, I'm going to go ahead and read the story. Follow along as I read. Ben's Baseball Game. Ben was a great baseball player. He played every day at the baseball field right after school. He loved to play with his friends before he went home. Once he got home, he had a lot of homework to do. So Ben stopped by the baseball fields to play. During today's game, Ben saw a few 5th graders come onto the field. This made Ben feel nervous. They asked him and his friends if they could play baseball too. Ben was scared because they were so tall, but the 5th graders were actually very nice to him. So obviously, Ben loves to play baseball, and he loves to play it after school every single day. And then these 5th graders came up, and he got scared, but really the 5th graders were asking him to play baseball with them. So now I'm ready to answer my questions. And again, I'm going to be using these key details. So who is this story mostly about? That's pretty easy. The story is about Ben. Not only is Ben in the title of the story, but he's also our main character. He's the very first word that I read. Ben was a great baseball player, and his name is also repeated throughout the story as well. So what makes Ben feel nervous? I remember towards the middle of the story, it was those 5th graders being on the baseball field that made Ben feel nervous, which is exactly the answer. And again, I can refer back to this part of the sentence. 5th graders came onto the field. And then the very next sentence says, this made Ben feel nervous. So sometimes when you're answering a question in a story, you have to not only look at one particular sentence, you may have to look at 1 or 2 sentences to find the direct answer. If you also notice too, nervous is in the question. Nervous is also in the story. That key detail right there tells me that's where I'm going to find my answer. So why should Ben not have been worried at all? Ooh, well, remember in the story, it was the fifth graders who were asking Ben to play with him because he was such a great baseball player. Again, when I refer back to the story, at the very end, they referring to the fifth graders, ask him and his friends if they could play baseball too. And that ended up making Ben really, really excited. And then I want to know, when would Ben play baseball? Well, way back at the beginning of the story, it would tell me that Ben would play baseball after school.